All right, everybody, welcome to this impromptu stream that I decided to have a few hours ago while I was getting some shopping and stuff done. A little, my son's birthday's coming up and crazy stuff going on. I was shopping and getting him some, things that he might like that maybe he can't get up in Canada. And then I became aware of the fact that in Canada right now, as we speak, there's a strike. The postal system is literally crashing and they're restructuring it and laying people off, and people are striking. I don't know what they're striking for because it looks like the whole system is collapsing, but we're going to have to probably use some kind of priority express system instead of the regular postal system in Canada because it's down. They're just done. It's very bizarre. So I got this idea to do this show about essentially, who is controlling our supernatural concept of the world and why do things seem so different now in that realm, than even when I was a child. And then I can bet when my grandmother was a child, it was even different. What has happened? What's going on? And I've been looking at a lot of videos, researching this and trying to understand what's going on in this world. And I'm the first to say it's like, Melissa, you're just getting old, right? It's the serious thing. You're just getting older and things change. That's how it goes. I'm hoping we're streaming too. Let me double check and make sure that we're actually streaming to YouTube. And it could just be that I'm getting old, but I think something else is happening. And of course, we know we live in this world where we change so fast. The changes are so rapid. No, it's live on YouTube. Things are too fast. They're like rapid speed. And it's this rapid speed, I think, that humans are just not dealing with well. Let's see who we have in the chat. John Aside, home from work. Perfect time. I'm doing this impromptu stream. So welcome. You're the only one in. Nobody's used to me streaming at this time. Now, I've been looking at so many videos on this and trying to gather what other people's ideas are because I feel like we're surrounded by this fake world that's tricking us, almost like a Truman Show or something like that, but worse, much, much worse. And that this idea of our spirituality or that sort of supernatural world where we would accept it as normal and just sort of there with us has disappeared. And I'm not going to be nihilistic this entire show. I'm not going to be just like, oh, it's disappeared. It's like it's gone. We can't get it back. I'm going to lay it out where it hasn't disappeared. We have just removed ourselves from it. And it's still sort of lying there, waiting for us to tap into it. But we're so engaged in other directions and with other things that we can't see that it's right here. And of course, I'm going to have video and different images and stuff to kind of narrate and illustrate and display what I'm talking about in this whole thing. But first, there's a really good channel that I've liked for a long time, and they used to talk about the clowns or Nephilim, but he gets into other ideas and other concepts. It's called Understanding Conspiracy. it's a good channel, and he's even covering this, things that I've been thinking about. So I'd recommend people go over there. And everyone's covered Charlie Kirk, which we'll get into, because what I'm watching, and I think everyone would agree that it's really twisted. But of course, before we go further, I'm just going to encourage everybody, you noticing that the colors are different. So on the occult studies shows, we're going to be green themed. And on the vampire show, which is usually Thursday, but it was Tuesday this week, we are going to be doing a red theme for vampires. So occult green, vampires red. We're not going to mix them together because then it will be Christmas. It's so bizarre, this world we live in, and there's so many elements to it that's pulling us away from supernatural in general. There's just so many elements. It's going to be hard for me to cover all of that. So if you're in the chat, I see a few of you are coming by. If you're in the chat, drop some ideas of what you have on this and let me know, because boy, oh boy, are we in like a strange time where the rapid change and the rapid movement of things, and what is considered acceptable, what is considered, normal, is so bizarre, beyond anything that I ever thought we were going to endure. I think that's partly why we're going crazy. And of course, Jonacide in the chat said, it's social media, our attention span is so short, we don't process stuff like we did. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Maxi Poo, you don't need to bark. It's okay. Everything's good. You can come back in and lay down and relax. He's just like, I have to guard the house. He's coming back in. He's just like, I don't know what social media is. I just do my job as a dog, Mom. That's what I do. Hello, Lucas Williams. Welcome to the channel. So yeah, if you guys are watching, remember, free articles. What I'm going to do over at the Substack before we get into this topic deeper, I just want to let you know, it's melissadonharris.substack.com. When I put an article out, I will put them out for free, and then they will remain there for 4 months, and then they will go into an archive. I will be if I do put one that's not free, it's just going to be a real special interview or something special for paid people. But eventually everything will be archived for paid subscribers, but they will be available for about 4 months, and then automatically they're going to roll into an archive. So that's how I've set it up. So you guys can go and check most of the stuff out there. It's melissadonharris.substack.com. 20 followers already. Substack can be a challenge. So we got 20 followers already, subscribers already, I should say. So go over there and check it out. And of course, the website is melissadonharris.com. I've got to update it, but it's there. It's got all the links. We are also streaming on Twitch now. We've got somebody on Twitch watching us, Velvet Bite Radio. We are streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, and Facebook, on the Facebook page, and eventually we will be live streaming over at Substack. I refuse to stream onto X anymore, although I've told you guys I got rid of my account with 42,000 followers or something like that. I got rid of it. It was crazy. It was a bubble of crazy. And so I think I got like 49 subscribers on the other one. I don't stream at all there. I just post some things and I use it. So if I see some occult stuff or anything like that, I can, share screen and we can go check it out. But we're not streaming there anywhere. We're just not going there. So Rumble, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. I encourage everybody to subscribe on the YouTube channel. I think that'd be the most valuable. And of course, the Substack. Oh, Kirby, welcome to the stream. It's good to see you here. So this whole business of who is controlling our system, who is controlling our perspective on the supernatural. And when I say the supernatural, let me just, let's do a little it's something that's out of the natural, which really, if it's happening here, is it really supernatural? I don't know. Can we, and we don't mean the TV shows. So it's attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature, a supernatural being. You could even call it paranormal, some type of spiritual event, something and relating to or beyond what is natural, and unexplainable by natural law or phenomena, abnormal, strange characteristics, possibly attributed to what people would call God or deity. That's what we're kind of talking about. And first and foremost, I think one of the elements that restricts us is actually organized religion. Because of course they create their books, they create their rituals. And they always, let me tell you this about religion, they have the rituals for the common man, and then they have the rituals for the elite. And of course, the rituals for the elites supposedly where the real magic is. The rituals for the elite is where the real magic is. So anything that they give to us is just control mechanisms. The real rituals that involve their money and power, we won't be getting that. Sorry. You just won't. It's the sad part. I know it's the sad part. We won't be getting access to those kind of rituals. There are a lot of people who say they know what these rituals are. They know what's going on, but of course the first element that restricts us from this realm, and I'm glad I bring this up around Halloween time. It's October 1st today, and we're going to be doing a show on the origins of Halloween tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. But it's a good time to bring it up that we are getting into this time of world where the ancients used to believe and practice that this was the time for divination. This was the time where the veil was thin, that it was easier to be in contact with this supernatural world. And we're losing our perspective on it. The more that we go into a modern society, the more we lose our perspective on it. And I'm going to start off by detailing that when electricity first started to come out, you're probably going to see it in the main cities. And the cities are the hubs. I'm going to date that. First become available. 1880s. New York City. In 1882, large-scale central power station was in New York City to power lights in businesses and home. And of course, people started to say at that time that they felt like they couldn't communicate with God anymore. So there is something with technology. There's something going on that interferes, that stops us from having this communication. That much I know is true. I had this all planned out, but we'll see if I go with it. We'll see if I go. I've got a few. We've got a few video clips to go through. So, the elite, of course, and the people with money, they invest their money. They own all these structures. They believe it is theirs. They don't treat this stuff like an alienable, like a right that we have to have access to. They want to control it, control where our mind is, control where the power is. We know that is going on. And the question that often comes today is, are there portals? Are they opening portals? And I'm not so sure that there are. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, are they opening portals? Because I really think human beings are the portals. I really think the human mind and the soul is the portal, that the supernatural is superimposed right on top of us. And our minds are really the portals, which is why, of course, they're directing our minds in so many different ways. Now, propaganda is nothing new. But of course, propaganda has always been there right from the beginning. It is meant to take the biological things. I've talked about this on the show where I said breaking the spell that binds you. I talked about it in reference to like the CIA, the FBI, all these agencies manipulating you. They bind you because they study and understand biology. They understand we're tribal. They understand certain things about our nature. And they can put us into certain groups, and then they can understand our behavior. This is why data is so important. And so once they, understand all these things about us, and they can manipulate this, they can enact certain things, they can make it look like there's an enemy or there's not an enemy, and they can focus our minds in ways that we wouldn't normally focus on, in areas we wouldn't focus on 20, 30 years ago. Maybe it's because I was younger, but not as many people were hyper focused on politics like they are today. Again, it just could be because I was younger, but not as many people were divided. And so, of course, we've got our usuals: radio, television, music, print, movie, internet, news channels, celebrity testimony, you know, uh, the appeal to authority, all that stuff I've talked about before. And what it does, and what it's doing, is it's taking our mind and diverting it away from the supernatural and that connection. Churches possibly did this too with their sermons, and I wouldn't compare it to the same. I think there's some positive things about church sermons from long ago. It's just they're very rigid, right? So, but it takes our mind away from the supernatural world, which is all around in nature, with our intuition, and it kind of pushes us into this hellish world of false narratives, of crazy making, of false dichotomies. Even the cities are constructs that are meant to weave us into a hellish sort of landscape where we can't connect with anyone at all. We can't even find, how many people can even find a park? I mean, most people in the cities don't even want to go jogging near a park because someone could attack them. This is why people are believing all these narratives. This is how they're programming us, is they have, made a system that's so smooth, that is so slick, and slowly it starts out, we know it's not real, but it becomes so real. We almost merge with it. And with AI coming, it's going to be indistinguishable. And our minds merge with it, so that when we see something on TV, like the Charlie Kirk Memorial, we honestly have been programmed that this is normal behavior, that this is how a wife acts when she's grieving, like a script, like a mega church sermon. I am out of sync like a kung fu movie. Oh, it must be the internet. It must be the internet. I don't know if I doubt there's anything I can do about that. I'm like overdubbed, like Bruce Lee. That's interesting that's happening. Let me go. Let me see if I can drop one of the. Which one will I drop? Let's drop Facebook as a channel, and then we'll see if that helps it. Maybe 4 or 5 is too many. I think that it might be an internet thing. So I've dropped Facebook. Let's see if it syncs me up with the voice better. We'll try that one. Okay. So where was I? No, I really appreciate you letting me know, Genocide. Sometimes there's just these tech things that you can't do anything about, and this might be a high stream time for certain news shows, and they might give them priority. So I apologize if it's irritating or normal or abnormal, but these things happen. So, by switching our mind and focusing less on nature, less on hiking, less on being out there, even focusing on my show, right away, we are separated from the supernatural world. We just can't see it. We can't perceive it anymore. We can only perceive all of the images that are put before our minds. And I can guarantee you they tested this stuff out in the lab. They tested people out. They tested people with images of hate and fear and pushed out propaganda. They understand exactly what propaganda does. This is why people have body dysmorphia. It doesn't arise out of nowhere. It doesn't arise out of nothing. It arises out of the media propaganda. You're seeing something that looks so real, a certain type of body, and your body doesn't reflect that. And if you see that long enough when you're young, you can develop strange eating habits, body dysmorphia. This happened in native cultures. When people would come by, you would visit, like, say somebody who was, I don't know, maybe they were a church missionary, maybe they were, someone traveling the world on behalf of the empire, and they would go to these colonies with indigenous people. The bodies would be normal. They'd have some flesh on them. They wouldn't be super skinny. But once you start inserting modern propaganda and the system in, people drop weight like crazy. This happened in India. It's happening all over the world. Once they see this image of this perfect body in quotations, everybody suddenly, you see these cultures and women and men start to hold this to their standard. It's like the memes that go viral. These body ideas go viral long before the internet, and people start, switching their behavior. It's like they're programming your behavior to be a certain way, to eat a certain way. Oh, good to see you, Todd. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully my voice is not out of sync. I stopped streaming to Facebook, so we'll see what happens. Normally I'm going to stream late at night. I think it's just high time. Candace has got all the viewers. I'll go and check out what Candace is saying after. But look, we've watched how they've manipulated the stage behavior, and they pull it away from the natural. They pull it away from the small tribe. They pull people into the cities. And like I've told you before, cities are places where psychopaths are drawn to, where psychopaths create it. Take a look at the hellscape. I mean, this is a city from above that looks intimidating to any normal person that came from a small town. That is what does he call it? It's like the devil's overlay. you know, it's we've always had cities, but they've never been this, should I say, formidable. That's what we're contending with, this false sort of overlay over the natural world. And it's making it harder and harder for people to be in line with their supernatural connections. Even 40 years ago when I was young, it was so different. And there were still people when I was young who were alive who were born in the 1920s, even the 1900s, who didn't have TV. They didn't even have radio. They didn't even have electricity. And you would hear stories from them, and they had a totally different way of thinking about the world and the people around them and life. And they would tell you tales. Let's pop this over. I have a tale right on my Substack that I just uploaded. And you can check it out. It's one I collected from somebody from the East Coast who's now passed away. It's a look into the realm of ghostly forerunners. These kind of stories, this kind of connection, they believed in this stuff wholeheartedly. They didn't just believe, they experienced omens, ghostly visitations that would predict stuff to happen. And they had a whole culture around it. The reason we're not seeing this stuff isn't because it's not there. It's because it's being overclouded and overshadowed by this fake world of so-called entertainment and propaganda and the internet. Nobody sits down and has a quiet moment with themselves anymore. And so this one article, by the way, is free over at Substack, melissadawnharris.substack.com. You can check it out. amongst many other articles. And we're constantly being sucked into this world. So even if we try to put it down, there'll be an event, say like Charlie Kirk's assassination, that sucks us into this world, that sucks us back into their narrative. And it's so psychotic when you actually look at the storylines and the narratives that the FBI is pushing. It just seems so, when you actually remove yourself from it, it seems ridiculous. It doesn't, it's sometimes I'm laughing like, this is so dumb. How do people believe it? Like, I've literally had people who were mad at me because I say, sorry, Erica Kirks looks like she's performing an acceptance speech at a beauty pageant with tears. She just has some tears. Like something's really wrong. And we're so removed from this world that this story came from the 40s, maybe early 50s in Canada. We're so removed from this world where people had experience where they seen ghostly figures that warned them of stuff. Nobody pays attention to any of that. There could be a ghostly figure warning you right now of something and you wouldn't know because your mind isn't connected to that realm. Your mind is the portal, and I really believe that. Are they trying to make portals? Possibly. Possibly they are. Possibly that's what they're trying to do. Let's see. I want to no, that video we're going to do at the end because there's a solution to being in control of your thoughts and being in control of yourself. We'll come to that at the end. Let's see. We're going to watch this. This is Understanding Conspiracy. He didn't have any short clips, and I don't think he's on TikTok anymore. So we're going to have a look and see what he says about cities. And I've been thinking about this for a while, for months, and then when I seen that he just covered it, I was like, oh, bravo, let's see what he has to say. So let's check it out here.
Together. I'm addicted to worldliness and the idea of human control. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the world's designed to make us. It's meant to be like that. I feel like the world itself, under Satan's dominion, even though it's Christ has dominion over everything. But in this illusory version of the world where Satan rules and everyone's playing under Satan's game and his dominion, even though he has nothing and he shouldn't have that authority, the authority people are giving over to Satan, shall we say, and living in his paradigm, which most people are, it's designed like a casino or a...
So our world is designed addictively. It's designed to crack you back up and trigger your brain to be addicted, to want more, so that when you put your phone down, when you're not going to these events, when you're not around all this hype, you feel like something's wrong. It's because it's a dysfunctional world. You feel like something's wrong, but nothing's wrong. It's just quiet. It's like people who are from dysfunctional, abusive families. This is what happens to them when things are quiet. If they're used to chaos and crazy, when things are quiet and they have someone who's stable around, they think something's wrong, and they act out. That's what's happening. In our world, they're doing this to us because we always have to be busy, trigger, buying, consuming, while they're running things and raping the world blind. And they act like they own all the resources. They own everything in the world. Let's see here. Todd says, that's interesting. Sometimes I wonder about Goya tapping into supernatural for his paintings. I think absolutely. And I'm not saying there wasn't any influence from the system back in those days. There certainly was, but things were not busy and crazy like this. I think you had a lot more quiet time and sleep time and downtime. And I definitely think most artists were tapping into something. and their mind's the portal. And of course they're going to be influenced by other things in the culture, but it's what's the intention of the culture? Is the intention of the culture good, or is the intention of the culture to make you a junked out, addicted, person who will forever just be a puppet that's, on auto mode? What's the purpose? So let's keep going on this video
An
here.
arcade. Everything's there to get you, to entice you in, to keep you playing the game.
I mean, don't you feel like that on the internet? Like everything is always there to get you. Everything is marketing. Everyone's constantly trying to get you to buy something, to do something, buy a scam product. Like, it's nonstop. There's nothing authentic going on. Like, even half the podcast, like the YouTube chat, YouTube is so different now. It's been taken over by these corporations. They own it. They're takeover everywhere. Here we have you heard the theory that Jesus already returned, had his 1,000 years, not Satan is in charge forever, how long he gets? I've heard that, and I think this guy covers that in one of his videos where he believes that the 1,000 years of Jesus has already been over or something like that. I think he might actually reference that in one of his videos.
Everything is in this world. It's built like that, and it's all just it's a manufactured.
Everything is inhospitable in cities now. They're not beautiful. They don't inspire you to be godly. They don't inspire you to, be humble and realize you're a small little tiny part of things. They literally are cold. It's like they don't want you to be relaxed. They don't want you. They just want you to go from A to B, do your job, go home, sit in a cage, and that's it. Don't have any independent thinking. Here, sit on this phone for a while and shut up. Don't be creative. And a lot of these people are not creative. I've had I got my degree in graphic design, and I can't tell you how many people who get to the top and they steal people's stuff and they steal ideas nonstop because of who they're related to.
Structure, and it literally is. It's cities on Earth. It's places.
You notice how that freeway, it kind of looks like a artificial bloodstream? Like everything's meant to mimic some internal structure. It's meant to mimic God. There's this idea that, I've said this before, when people have had near-death experience, they see like a grid surrounding the planet and like something in the ether. And I think they're trying to copy this in different ways with their Neuralink and their Starlinks and all that stuff. They're copying what they know exists and keeping us in the dark and like, oh, there's no God. There's none of that stuff. Just keep working, rat. Just keep walking around in that maze. Just keep doing it.
It's tourist attractions and the rest of it. It literally is a system. It's trinkets, it's technologies, it's pleasures, excitements, experiences, all this type of stuff. The whole world is just designed to keep you locked into focusing on the world and gaining influence and power within it. That's what it's designed for, and that's the devil's world. The real world, has nothing to.
So he's like, that's the devil's world. Now, I don't believe in a world where you get damned and go to heaven and hell. I believe that was, a construct created to control people. If it's the devil's world, like he's saying, if it's some horrible world, it's right here. They've created it right here. So there's nothing you're going to after that's going to punish you because you didn't say a Hail Mary or whatever it is. If anything, the punishment is we've tipped too far to this fake world. That's not natural. There's some benefits in it, and we can talk about the benefits, but there's too many downfalls right now. It's going too fast. It's out of control, and it's trying to take over reproduction. It's trying to take over everything. Pretty soon, it's going to take over. It's going to convince you don't have a soul, that you're a nothing. And it's already tried that. We've heard the narrative where we're just lazy things in a meat sack and we're useless parasites. We've already heard that narrative trying to demoralize us.
Do with that system, that controlled manufactured artificial system, which is the devil's, is the earth, God's creation.
We are finished.
Okay, let's turn the volume down on that one because we don't want any adverts on this show, but it is an artificial world and you can see it everywhere. And it's so ironic that most of the diseases that we have now, well, our problem in history was pretty much infectious disease, bacterial diseases, things like that. Now we have these diseases that are all from the poor food system and all the chemicals that are happening that are produced by these rich billionaires and this war machine that could easily be solved, but they won't solve that. They're like, okay, well, you're clean, you're having a bath, get your vaccinations, get this. But we have all these diseases from this system that claims that it's good for us and it's repairing the system. It's remarkable. Let's get that.
Land and the people being connected, communities, love for one another, trade systems rather than financial monetary systems.
Do you guys remember ever a time when we could like go to your neighbor and say, hey, I was baking something and I just realized I don't have a cup of flour, or I need a cup of sugar or some milk, and your neighbor would be like, hey ho, there you go, and they would loan you? I remember that once, a couple times on the East Coast when I was young. I've never seen that in most of the neighborhoods that I lived in as an adult. And I personally myself don't do that anymore either. It's like you're paranoid of your neighbor. And I think it's because, I'm not knocking people from different countries, but I think when you have so much chaos and diversity and you're distracted and the TV becomes, or the phone becomes, your means of communication, you just don't know how, or you don't trust your neighbor anymore. The neighbor is different. You have no idea how to do that. And we've been taught not to do that. I'm not suggesting that you go, skim off your neighbor all the time, but it used to be more commonplace. I don't know if it's in poor neighborhoods or it's just something from a long time ago, but I rarely see that today. Maybe I live in the wrong neighborhood.
Literally loving one another and just building something that actually works and lasts. None of this scarcity civilization of resources or this idea of planned obsolescence where things are built to break. Permanence.
Well, and that's another thing. And Milo Yiannopoulos of all things was talking about how we live in a world where everything breaks all the time, especially in America, where everything breaks and everything's meant to break because it takes away our idea of permanence. So you have to get new stuff, spend money, waste your time, and you don't have this like permanence idea like they might have in Europe, where someone buys a house and it's been there for hundreds of years. You buy good furniture that will last you 30, 40, 50 years. And you're always painting, always changing. I mean, we've gotten used to that. And everything is plastic and junk, and it falls apart and it's meant to be thrown in the garbage, even clothes. Even styles, like it's like, oh, the new style, the new car, the new model, the new phone, the new this, the new that. Oh, that's not trendy anymore. You can't wear those kind of jeans. Those were trendy 5 years ago. And I'm guilty of participating in that because you just thought, oh, well, that's how life is. Things come in fashion every season. So instead of having season that's, worshiping the nature and things that are changing around, there's people who worship the fashion instead of the passing of the season and talking to the ancestors. That's what we've become. It's so bizarre and strange. It's such a strange world.
We build things for permanence rather than profit. People start building that kind of.
It's permanence rather than profit. And that's the biggest thing is if you're poor and you're constantly shopping for stuff that's junk, that's falling apart, that doesn't make you rich to buy it. But some poor people think that means wealth. I got to have a discussion with my husband with that because the Amazon stuff, it doesn't mean you're wealthy. It means you're poor because you keep spending on junk. You save your money up, you buy something that lasts a long time. That is more of a sign of wealth when you have permanence. when your genetic line goes on, your children are here, they have something that they can keep from you in the future. That's permanence. That's power. And we're going to talk about personal power because it's kind of the way out of it, because we've been engineered to give up our personal power. We've been engineered to be people pleasers. And I'm not talking about your family. I'm not talking about, that you don't do things for your family, work when you're around different places. We've been engineered to smile when we don't want to, especially in America.
World, I think that's something that may have been here once. That kind of permanence type kingdom. It may have already been here, and we're squatting in the remnants of it, if you want to get into the little season theory idea. But I think if we went back to having that mindset, that Christ-centric mindset, not Christ consciousness, I'm not getting all new age lovey-dovey Gnostic here, but if we were all focused on the truth and we walked as Christ walked and did our best to have that mindset of we're all one in God and in Christ, we're all brothers and sisters, we're all fearfully and lovingly made as unique individuals with our own skills. Let's work together to actually build something permanent, something beautiful.
Well, and those buildings have a soul. We're going to switch over to another scene here, and I'm going to show you. Those buildings have a soul. They have a feel to them. They have this, and in America, it's all like Lego block buildings that keep getting pumped up, and they're going to throw people in these little soulless cubes where everything's cute and novel, maybe even, but it doesn't have a soul to it. If you are ever, and some of you from my audience may be from England. I know I have some people from England that show up. Love y'all. When I went to England, there's buildings, they have a soul. They have presence, they have history, they have people who died for things, who defended their, they have a lineage. It's there. And that's what they don't want us to have. That's the experiment with America, is that we're cut off from that. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on the history of Halloween. In some of the clips that we have from an actual Wiccan, we'll talk about how in America we're celebrating Halloween and it's cut off from the old traditions, and how people are, really want that. It's not that people don't want that. They do want that. They just don't know how to do it because they don't live in the area where they can go visit their ancestors in the graveyard from many generations back. They don't have that. And Jonaside is saying, wood hundreds of years ago was denser than wood is now. It most certainly is. I worked at a hardware store. Won't say which one because I told them off and quit. And the 2x4s to build, they're tiny compared to 1960. I bought a house from 1960s and that was some solid wood. That was a solidly built house. Today, it's like, it's like you're building your structure with toothpicks or something. It's so insane. And so this is this whole dynamic about controlling this and controlling things that are not meant to last, that and having it be plastic and not wood and cheap and crappy, that is interfering. And all these wires around us, we're strung out with wireless waves and wire this and wire that. It certainly is damning us and separating us from a soul and from a supernatural world that's overlaying ours, that we have actual contact with all the time. Now, I'm not trying to say that everything in the history of life was perfect. There's certainly problems and issues. There's certainly war. There's certainly people who hate each other, and there were certainly conflicts in the history. But we're in a place now where people don't even have an identity. They don't know. Renee says, I have a few neighbors. I do house sitting and pet sitting and borrowing items and talking to you, but I am 50 and the neighbors have been here for quite a while. Yeah. Some people have that where they have that with their neighbors. I'm terrible at that now. I'm terrible at that. I need to be better, but the neighbors I have now, guys, they do make me nervous. I'm going to tell you. Probably about a year after I moved here, our neighbors, a SWAT team literally showed up and literally flash bombed our neighbors and came in there with guns, and there was like a shootout because they were threatening the other neighbor with a gun. They moved into this neighborhood and they've been like the blight in the neighborhood and nobody likes them. So I don't talk to my neighbors just because literally we had a SWAT team here. And I was like diving on the ground and running to the other end of the house, hoping like I was like, wow. And like where they did that is like right next to our bedroom. So I'll admit I do not talk to our neighbors on the one side of the house. The ones behind us, I talk to them all the time. I've actually had them do work for me on our house, so they're really great. But we got one neighbors I won't talk to, and that SWAT team showing up, that did it for me. Woo! I said to my husband, I was like, is this normal for SWAT teams to show up in America? And he's like, I've never had, and my husband used to be on a SWAT team. And he's like, I never have a SWAT team showed up in my life. This is the first time. I was like, well, it's not my fault. SWAT team. My gosh. Yeah, Renee says, my mom's place was built in 1918 and 1938. They did extensions. I love that house. Those older houses are great. I would love to have one. Love to have, yeah, it was scary. I grabbed my dogs and we ran to the other end of the house, and Mike knew exactly what it was when it happened. I had been up earlier. I'd seen the cops casing the house, and I was like, hey, the cops are casing the house. Like, what's going on? And he was sleeping and wouldn't wake up. So I tried to go back to sleep, and all of a sudden this flashbang, and Mike knew exactly what it was. He jumped out of bed like, holy shit. I had to, like, it was so bad, and they had to cordon off our yard and do this investigation and look for bullets. I had to call into work like SWAT team. I'm like, I can't leave. My house yard is cordoned off. I can't leave my neighborhood because of a SWAT team. Only in America. I've never had that experience in Canada. It was really crazy. I keep praying for our neighbors to move. Either that or we're going to sell and we'll move out of Utah one day. But I'd be like, oh, yeah. See it. Thanks for stopping by, Todd. It's not my usual time. So anyways, that's my SWAT team total unrelated story, but it is. It's like it was crazy, and it makes me like not want to talk to my neighbors because it was crazy. Although I'll admit, like months later, I did give them a jump start because their battery was dead, so I jump start their car. But I was like, stay away from me. I was like, oh my god, it's nuts. It was crazy. I didn't tell my son about it because I didn't want him to not come and visit. I didn't want to scare him. Anyways. This video, really, if you want to check it out, I'll give you the link for it. He goes into depth. That's Understanding Conspiracies. He's got a whole bunch of videos about the clowns and the Nephilim. I'll pop it up here. He goes on. He also he talks about the Charlie Kirk case, which we're going to go into right now. I want to show you some different kind of energy. Yeah, Renee, you've lived all over Los Angeles. You never had a SWAT team. I had a SWAT team my first year being here. It's almost like, I don't know. I was like, it was crazy. it was nuts. The guy got arrested. I don't think he's been back. They got the women and children out of that house, and then they went right in there. And the guy with the gun wouldn't come out, and he literally was drunk, firing a gun outside. And then the neighbors on the other side, he took the gun and pointed at the neighbor's head, and the neighbor called the cops, like all terrified. That's why the SWAT team came, because this guy was running around drunk with a gun. And they are like, nobody likes them in the neighborhood. No, nobody likes them. Okay, so what are we going for? I want to show you. So we talked about that kind of Christ. He's saying Christ-centric. He doesn't want to go Christ consciousness. He thinks it's woo, but I think Christ consciousness is appropriate. And I want to talk about what has happened recently and how they're diverting our minds. Because when we do get onto something, we call certain people out for not being so good. They create these psyops. They create this crazy stuff. And I want to show you what non-Christ conscious looks like. Although all of these people who attended Charlie Kirk's memorial think they are Christ-centric. They think that they are praying to Jesus. But what they're really doing to them here is they've emotionally traumatized everybody. Now they're rolled out this memorial. Isn't it weird how they rolled this memorial out? Everything happened boom, 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 boom. It's almost like it was planned in an itinerary for over a year or something. Like literally, they're like a week later, they're like, hey, we got this big haul. We're going to have this Charlie Kirk memorial. It felt bizarre. It felt as bizarre, fake, and weird as COVID and the lockdowns did. It felt really, really bizarre. So I want to show you like how hypnotized these people are. With his death, it exposed demons. Hell yeah, it did. It certainly did. And this whole, I've got to wonder if I don't think I can vote left, right, or center. I don't think I can vote for anything anymore because it makes me wonder who really is involved in this, because this wasn't a memorial. This was a GOP Israeli kind of promotion scheme. They were selling merch, and everybody's like, Charlie would want it. Charlie would want it. It would be Charlie's way. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just ridiculous how people are defending this, and a lot of the hardcore megas they're in a bubble and they think this is great. It's like a rock concert. And this shows you how we have been manipulated for so long with idolizing and rock concerts. I'm not shaming anyone who likes to go to a rock concert, but this is supposed to be a memorial, and everybody seems to be hypnotized. And let's play this video here and check it out. It's 24 seconds, so it's not very long. Okay, I don't know about you, but I wasn't feeling spiritual there. It's really disturbing, and people are literally attacking Candace and other people because they're investigating the death. They find it suspicious, and they're basically like, if you love Charlie, you would stop asking questions. It's this gaslighting from hell going on here, and I can't help but think everybody, including Trump, is in on this deal, that everybody knew exactly what was going to happen to Charlie. Let's go over here to my channel. I did this video, and a lot of people were offended that I did, not a lot, a few were offended that I did this video, because I'm basically saying his wife is kind of fake. There's something really wrong with her, and a lot of people are like, what are you suggesting? Check it out.
We walked out of the trailer at some point. My dog stepped on a bee. We went to the vet. I forgive him. We walked out of the...
Okay, so what I'm pointing to when I put this, you didn't hear anything but feedback. You didn't hear that video? I wonder what's going on. I'm pointing out this narrative pulled us back in. If you were trying to separate and be on your own, this narrative, Charlie Kirk, would pull you back into this cycle because it's so traumatic and dramatic and really crazy. I'm pointing to that really fake, like, purposeful, that man, like that. There are so many people who are used to, I don't know if they watch soap operas. I don't know what's going on, but they're so used to. Okay, so the Charlie one, didn't hear anything but feedback. Interesting. Anyways, that squinchy in her face, it's forced. It's like how an overly dramatic actress would see how you would grieve. It's not real grief. And I think a lot of people are so used to soap operas and craziness and they think they get it confused with reality, that they think she's really upset. Yeah, it's fine to mention someone on your tour and give them condolences, but the actual memorial that was thrown up so far right away, and the poster had no, it had Trump. It was like a GOP speaking event, and so they not only politicized it, but I think it was planned from the beginning to subvert, take over Turning Point USA, get all these young Christians into the right direction, because a lot of them were posing what was happening over with a certain country in the Middle East who is attacking Iran, etc., and Syria and all these other countries. They're opposing. They want America first stuff. So this is meant to steer them in there and say, Charlie left Israel, see, and it's all bull. And there's something so disturbing about this. It hasn't left my mind. I don't like to think that a wife would, not be I don't even like to think that a wife would not, for whatever reason, that a wife would not mourn her husband. But everyone's like, well, everybody mourns differently. It's true. Some people work, some people do different things when they mourn, but this was not a wife mourning differently. This felt like a fake act, and it just felt like that to my bones. I showed my husband, I showed everybody these clips, and they're like, yeah, it's not about that everybody mourns differently. It's that her emotions don't look real. And then she comes on the podcast of Charlie Kirk's podcast, and she's laughing. Like, it's so bizarre. It looks like those women who fake cry when their kids are lost, but they know they killed them, and then they move on with life, and they're shopping, and they're spending all the money, and they're doing something crazy that normal people wouldn't. This is what it feels like. And everybody else is gaslighting us to think you're insensitive. Are you trying to say, someone told me you should be ashamed of yourself for saying that? I'm like, you should be ashamed of yourself for believing that somehow this is normal behavior. If I was a cop and someone's husband died and they were behaving this way, I'd be like, look, you got to go investigate the wife. You got to go see what her involvement is. Honestly, I would be. It's strange that is not that's not loading. It's weird that the audio, I'm going to have to go check out the settings on the audio. I might have messed something up. Anyways, I do have a couple other clips for you. I've got this one here, and then we're going to start talking about the elites and how they separate us from the supernatural. Because remember, even when I was young, I had a concept of supernatural that was and experiences of it that was completely different than what I see today. What I see today is people mimicking television series that are bull shellacking, and it's very disturbing. But I want to finish off this video. We were talking about Charlie Kirk, and I want to finish it off with this, and then we'll get into the elites and how they think they are and how they're manipulating us. And I have a few more notes here, but this is an interesting video because she talks about the mocking tone in which this case is being handled.
This is a theater production, but the important thing to understand about that theater is that in this case, I'm seeing something I've never seen before, and that is when they do this kind of theater. And when I say they, I mean the intelligence agencies. When they engineer a theater like this, they always, they like to mock the crowd. I have never seen the mockery this extreme. This is different. This is new. It's a joke.
Yeah, and this trad wife and traditional wife and all this stuff about her, you can go and look up Erica Kirk, and there's some mysterious stuff about her linked to intelligence, linked to Israel. But she comes across as a pageant queen. She doesn't come off as a traditional wife. She's bling blinged out with more bling than Mr. T sometimes. And some, I just find like there's something cold and there's something wrong. There's just something missing. And if I had seen a wife behave that way and I was a private investigator and her husband had just died, I'd be like, look, let's go check the wife out. Let's go see what's going on here, because this is sus. That's all I'm saying. Anyone with a mind would. And so the idea is that these elite people, these billionaires who have this whole war, separate, make everybody hate each other. They want war in the Middle East. They want to take over globally. Now they're coming out with these digital IDs in the United Kingdom. Apparently, was it Sweden? I can't remember, Switzerland or Sweden, one of those countries. They're like 50.4% voted for digital ID. You got people voting for enslavement. It's going to get crazy. You have all this stuff happening all at once around this. and things. This was a major, like I said, a major sacrifice, a public sacrifice, and now there's theater and ritual around it, and this was meant to move some stuff forward, especially the immigration. They're going to use the immigration to encapsulate people for digital ID, and I hope it does not work. So we had her saying they're mocking because they're little demons. It's like Satan, like you said, it's a Satan has taken over here and he's pulling some crap, and they like to mock and make fun of. And I believe that when all those people are sitting at Charlie Kirk's memorial going, ah, and singing the religious songs, that they're being mocked. That they're being mocked. And their energy, what's happening, in my personal opinion, because I'm talking about how we're out of touch with the supernatural, these people, his energy is being cycled back into the system, and they're using emotion so they don't think clearly, they don't question things, they're just, oh, Charlie Kirk, and oh, look at these people, they're doing something nice for Charlie Kirk, and they bring them into this memorial, and they're literally recycling their energy. Kind of like loosh, but positive loosh. Like they're using, it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. They can use it. It is as long as it is heightened emotion where they're not logically thinking and they're not in their own mind, and you're able to get them around a lot of people so they can effectively think. And it's why I question things so densely. Now, I'm going to remind you about a lot of these elites. European elites around the world and how they think of us, because we're like, oh, they're on our side, they want the best for us. No, they think of us as little rats in a maze, little things to push around, and they think of themselves very particularly like they have the blood of the gods in them. Remember, kings were representations of God, and a lot of these elites, either they are godlike because of the technology and the money they wield, or they think they have the blood of the gods in them. Check out this clip here from David Icke. He's going to tell you exactly the structure going on here and why it pulls us away from some organic form of supernatural and communication.
That's why they act as they do. And this software program has to be protected. If you interbreed it with the wider human population, its traits, its character traits, including the lack of empathy, start getting diluted. This is where the elite interbreeding with each other comes from, whether it's the royals of old or the royals of today, or whether it's the interbreeding rich and famous families around the world. They're holding this particular software to stop it being diluted in its impact on behavior. So when we're looking at bloodline genealogy, in effect, on their level, it's replicating the software program, so it holds its power. And so we're looking at, therefore, a structure, a hierarchy, which comes out of the unseen through the reptilian and other non-human into the human dynasties, and then we enter the spider's web, or the pyramid of manipulation within the society that we see. It's a whole hierarchy coming out of the unseen into the seen that I described much earlier.
There you go. There's the hierarchy. That's why they believe they have a godlike blood, and they keep it pure because they believe there's some kind of programming in it that makes them superior in this hierarchy. So it's why they breed, the top of the echelons breed closely. You or I, that will never happen. Don't be naughty. Don't even think about it. You wouldn't even want to be up there in these realms of power anyways, because you're a slave. They're probably bigger slaves than we are, and they believe they're free because they have lots of money and supposed power. But like I told you, the closer you are to the core of power or a cult leader, the more likely you are to get abused in the worst way. It is unfortunate. So like, what do we do about this? I've been looking at some videos. Obviously, the best thing to do would be everybody turns their cell phones off, gets rid of things, and just disengages from the technology all at once. You think they'd shut the internet down. Well, it's their power. It's how they manipulate everybody. It's how they create chaos. They don't just create chaos by lying. They create chaos by throwing out so much information that's irrelevant that you just can't process it. You go into overload. You don't know what's up from down. It's why you have to be a really good investigator to actually cut through the bullshit. And so how do you sort through this? I mean, idealistically, it's to have days away. Oh, good. I'm synced up again. Yay. Apparently I wasn't for a while. Thanks, technology. So the ideal would be is to get off, but also if you got off, they could find a different way to control you, to control your mind. And so how do you have presence in your life? How do you put up boundaries? How do you do this with still being functioning in the world? And of course, we're going to go back to share time. And let me know in the chat if this does not work. Actually, I'm going to go in the settings and audio, snowball. Make sure. Let's replace this with become a leader, a default leader. So if you can't hear this, let me know. Let's hear what he has to say.
If you justify, you're going to shrink no matter what. And we do this, a lot of us tend to do this for little crumbs of approval. So write this one down. The person who explains the most has the least power in the room.
I'm explaining a lot right now, sorry.
In influence psychology, we don't study behavior to be charming. We study it to be undeniable. And when you walk into a room and you kind of say nothing and people adjust all of their energy in the room just because you're breathing air in the same space, that's not charisma. That's behavioral dominance. And let's talk about that in a way that's not negative and not putting anyone else down. And what I'm saying is not some fluffy bullshit TED talk. This is ancient brainstem level programming reacting to perceived authority. So if you want to be unreachable, you want to have real power, I suggest you stop dancing to the music that nobody even asked you to play. And I think a lot of people mistake silence for weakness. Let them do that. That's tip number one. Let them mistake silence for weakness. Let them talk themselves into circles trying to figure out what's going on while you sit back with patience and composure. I want you to do this because humans are wired to crave certainty. And when you don't give them a lot of certainty, you own their attention. You create an itch that can't be scratched.
Okay, so I'm not recommending that you do this to your spouse or in your personal relationships, and he doesn't recommend this either. He's talking about dealing with people in the outer world that are trying to get something from you or manipulate you, or you're dealing with powerful people. And I think that Erica's probably doing this. She's probably not responding because that's what she's doing. She's making people uncertain about what's going on. Then she has a more powerful position. And these leaders, they know this. About creating the certainty, about being silent and not saying too much. Now, it might look like I'm saying a lot right now, but I'm running a stream. I'm sure I could do a stream and just sit there and say nothing. But like I said, I save my time and I decide I'm going to do Tuesdays and Thursdays, or I'm going to give some time today. And then outside of that, I had to practice for a long time, not taking personal messages all the time. Like some of you, I won't mind if you personally message me, and if somebody disappears, and they just say something and we don't talk back, that's fine. You've got to conserve your time for where you want things to focus, and silence is sometimes the best thing you can do. It conserves your energy and it keeps people guessing. It makes them uncertain. Now let's keep listening.
If you're good, mystery isn't accidental, it's designed. And it's why the most influential people in history didn't shout, they whispered, or they just were. When you don't explain yourself, they have to fill in the blanks. And they will always fill it in with power instead of lack. And I just want you to try this on. I'm not telling you to be mean to anybody or like unplug from the entire world, but the less you give, the more they want.
Imagine bringing your side project.
No. You hear that? The less you give, the more they want. Oh, apparently. Hey, boys, it's okay. You don't have to bark. Maxie and Boo Boo, come here. So the less you give, and you get to decide this. Obviously, you don't do this to your family and close people. That would be manipulation. Like that wouldn't be very good. But for people in the outside world, you get to decide how much you give. And the powers that be know this. They know that if they don't respond and they don't do what you want, that they hold the power. And it's the same thing with like if you're protesting all the time, what do? They just ignore you and keep on with their narratives. They don't give you their attention. They take it away from you. So it's why I wonder how effective protesting. I mean, it certainly can be effective, but if this is the case, that when you conserve your energy and you give people silence, that it controls more, there might be something to it. Remember, the FBI has tried to start up a few commotions. There was, they tried to send people dressed streetwise at certain events that were supposed to happen, and nobody showed up, and they kind of look like fools. You kind of have to not show up at their constructed events, and most of the events are constructed. Let's see.
Situation from interrogation to hostage negotiation to leadership. So there's a reason people that line up outside of stores that they can't have. Right in the base of the hotel I'm staying at right now, there's a Louis Vuitton store. And I walked around out there at like 9:50 this morning, and there was a line outside. It's not scarcity, it's seduction. So emotional inaccessibility is the new currency. If you want to be irresistible,
this is actually highly narcissistic. Narcissists will do this. This is why I'm telling you, you never do this to personal relationships in general. You decide you would never do this, because that would make you a narcissist. If you made yourself emotionally scarce with your wife or your husband and started manipulating this, I do not advise this in this dynamic. I advise this when dealing with these evil people and the people that wish to control you, that you make yourself non-available for a majority of time, and then you decide when you're going to be available for these outside people that are not important to your family. And like I said, you don't have to be cruel about it, but you decide who you're going to send a message to, who you're going to respond to, what times you're going to be places. And I know that's hard at work, but I think you could practice it by, if someone comes up and they're chatting with you, you might be like, oh, thank you very much, and be more quiet. It's hard. It's difficult at work because people are so tribal.
you have to get comfortable not responding. So let your inner peace be complete.
Part of this isn't just not responding or manipulation. Part of not responding is controlling your own emotions, because a lot of times in our world, people are trying to trigger you to be angry, to be upset. They're trying to get you to act and do something. And if you don't respond and you stay calm, you're controlling your emotion and you're not giving the system what they want. They want a civil war. They want to disconnect us from the supernatural. Also, if you're silent and calm, that's more likely where you're going to connect with the supernatural. So I'm not telling you to be a cold, aloof psychopath in the city that's like, hey, I want to manipulate you. I'm saying, like, conserve your energy and saying, well, where am I going to spend it? What am I going to do with it? And that way you actually have presence. You're not just bibbity bobbity boo and silent all the time. You have presence when you're somewhere. This is something that I definitely need to practice, but I started practicing it on inboxes because I was getting too many toxic people on the inboxes that were showing up and very needy all the time. And I was like, oh, what do you want? No, don't do it. Don't do it.
Impenetrable. What I want you to just write down, if you're talking about all of these things and trying to conceptualize what it is I need to be more non-reactive than the other.
There you go. Non-reactive. Let's see if we can fast forward this up. Oh, this is a good one. If you constantly need people to understand you, you give power away. Nobody's going to understand you. You kind of can't worry about them understanding you. Renee, oops. Oh, Cognito here. Yeah. So I was quiet in school and worked as a secretary for years. Most people didn't know who I really was. Did you find that more powerful, or did you find that bad? Like, I don't know if it's about you can be strong and know what you think, but you only reserve it. You reserve it for certain times and certain people, and you decide where it goes. And you're controlling your emotions, so you're not always like all over the place. This is an important one to listen to. This is about wanting people to understand you, and we have to let go of that. We have to not care if the government understands us or not. We have to let go of this need to be understood.
The need for constant understanding and validation is a mental leash. It's a leash. I want you to learn.
It ties you to the people you need validation from. If you need validation from the people who work with you, if you need them to say you're a good worker all the time, we all go through this. I go through this. If you need constant validation, it ties you to that person so that your emotions depend on whether they understand you or they validate you.
To cut it and watch how the world will really shift in your life, because the second that you stop needing to be understood is the second you become impossible to manipulate. I'm going to say that again. The second that you stop needing to be understood is the second that you become impossible to manipulate.
Okay, so I'm going to stop that there. I don't want to play the whole video outright. I'll put the link there in the message, but the need to be understood is also how, like he says, it's easy. Once you need to be understood all the time, you can be manipulated because your emotions can be changed. You're not stable, you're not strong, you're not stoic. Your emotions can be changed. You can be pulled away from your inner dialogue. You can be pulled away from the supernatural world. I would certainly recommend checking that whole video out and looking at this idea of being a person who doesn't need to be validated to do what they do and say what they do all the time. I 100% recommend going through that video. Maxie here, he needs to be validated a lot. He's a dog. We get it. He has trauma, but he's a dog. That's how it goes. we have to validate our dogs sometimes. But yeah, we're in this system. We've talked about the royals, we talked about their eliteness, and now we talked about we don't need the validation from these elites. I always considered myself a chameleon. You can sort of fit right into different places. And you still, even if you're like that, you get to decide, because it's better to be stoic with your thoughts. And I always had trouble with this. I'm like a double Aries, sun, rising sign. And I always had trouble when I was young. I was hyperactive and I was all over the place. I asked the teacher if I could go to the bathroom and leave class, and I wouldn't come back for who knows how long. I'd probably be in the basement looking at things in old books, or I'd be in there talking to secretary. I was all over the place, and I couldn't be still. It was a huge challenge for me when I was young. And I know people like ADHD. No, I think if I was allowed to do things that I was interested in, that would have dissolved. I don't like to do things I'm not interested in. My son's kind of similar. It's funny to watch. So let's see how we're going to tie this up. We're coming in to this, but I know that felt like, oh, that's not very supernatural, but it's actually not supernatural in the way, you're not connecting with your ancestors. You're not, feeling the world as it was 100 years ago. But what it is showing you to do is how to take control of your mind and have a presence and not have something manipulate you. Hey, boo boo. They're all like, hey, mama. And it's an important part, in my opinion, to arriving at a place where you're comfortable with your ideas, and you don't need validation. And your ideas could be some kind of Wiccan, a pagan, you could be Christian, whatever it is, but you might have some ideas that other people don't, and you don't need to pass them off through the system to know, I think this works. I'm having this. And a lot of times I had someone tell me my higher self was a demon, which I thought was funny. You get these preacher people and they'll tell you, God, voice of God told me. And I'm not doubting that they had a voice of God, but I think it's talking to them, and they always go and project it out to everybody else. So they're like, my voice of God told me to tell you stop being a hoe. And it's like, no, he's telling you to stop being a hoe. He's telling you. You know what I mean? Do I believe in astrology and numerology? I do think there's something to it. I'm not so sure that they have it good. Like, I think that stuff in the newspaper is probably a little more general, but I do believe this universe operates on numbers, and letters equate to numbers. And I do believe the elites, when they make their logos and they make their designs and they do all this stuff, it's not just general. They're doing a number pattern that means something to them. And they understand that everything's made up in a balance and a number schematic. So I think there's something to it. So my kid is an Aries. Yeah, I'm an Aries rising and sun sign, and my moon's Aquarius. So I have two. I'm like harsh Aries, and it's taking me a good 40 some years to control, to be like, okay, tone it down, tone it down, tone it down. You don't have to battle with everyone. You don't have to go to war every 10 seconds. I don't do that anymore. Maybe I'm letting my Aquarius self come out. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's something to it. When you're born, the energies, I just think the elites don't want us to really know it, what it is. Certainly. So that's why I think it's important to grab that, because if you understand that's what gives you presence, that's what gives you the belief, and that's what makes you powerful. You're not so concerned with being validated. You don't have to go to a mega church. You could sit at home and mourn for Charlie Kirk and memorialize him. You're less likely to be pulled into these big events and these things that want to take your energy, your mind, your time, and your money. And then another thing, some people are really worried because apparently a witch cursed Charlie Kirk. I read that Salon article when I first talked about Charlie Kirk. A lot of people are worried that this is going to be a strike on people who do believe in that stuff. Wow, that is rough. It's rough. I never even thought about when I was young. I was always just really battling everything. Straight on, like, don't lie to me, give it to me straight. I'm still like that to a point. I'd rather passive aggressive, too much overly passive aggressive people. I find that worse than I'd rather have someone punch me in the face and I know where they're coming from than a passive aggressive person who's out there doing their worst and pretending that they're like smiling all along, like, it's okay. I love you. It's weird. I have this thing about church bells. Why did I write church bells down? I think I wrote church bells down is because I was talking to my husband and they were talking about a frequency and sound that clears out negative stuff. These are other things you can do, and I think church bells did that. I think the tone of ringing church bells, which we don't hear that anymore. I think it not only signified people, hey, it's time for church, or it's 12 o'clock, or whatever. It also cleared the air. It cleared. It would be nice. I think there was something to church bells. You can tell me if you agree or not. In the yeah. So there's also this idea that, like I talked about, the cities being mechanistic, and this whole world is designed to not be friendly to an organic, human, tribal society. It's designed to manipulate that, like rats in a cage. But as you heard David Icke talking, he's talking about these archons. He's using this whole paradigm, archons and reptilians and all of this stuff. Now, whether or not that's true, I've never seen one. I've had people talk about seeing them. But there's this idea that they want us to think we're like these meat sacks and we're useless and our body's so disgusting. And you hear that all the time. But I mean, if that's the case, which I don't think it is. I don't think our bodies are horrible. I think our bodies are the avenue in which we get to be here, to explore, to look at things, to take this challenge on, and to make it vibrate higher if we can, to put some positivity into this place, because it's full of some negative Nancy's, and not just negative Nancy's, some very corrupt and very evil people. But there's this idea that these entities that are here parasiting everything are literally so desperate for a body. That's why they try to possess us. That's why they try to mimic things and take over things. They're like, the purpose of being here is to have our soul, our spirit, and our body sync. So that this other stuff, it's not that it doesn't matter, it just doesn't affect us as deeply. It doesn't bring us down as deeply. Let's see. Have you heard the earth frequency spikes from the normal 7.8 to 30 or 40 could explain a lot? Yeah. I've heard about that. Is that I know they were talking about the Schumann resonance, and it spiked. It's been spiking a lot lately, and it spiked a lot on Charlie Kirk assassination. And this whole insane false narrative that we're getting, things just don't add up at all. Things are getting very strange. And it's so chaotic. Now, there's people who are suggesting that Charlie Kirk is not really dead. I don't believe that one. I think he really is dead. But I think this is the narrative. You know, her by the coffin was weird. It wasn't about the body. I understand the body and the hands look weird because that's what happens sometimes. And then her first speech was, okay, that was a little odd. And then, yeah, the memorial was just too much. And then she goes on the podcast. Initially, I thought there were snakes in Turning Point USA that were going to use her, but I don't like to say it, but I think we should be, as any investigator would be, we should have our eye out on her because her behavior signifies something weird. That I don't care if she's a woman of God and she believes Jesus is taking him. When you sit there and you watch your husband get assassinated, you're going to have some trauma. There's no way, unless you're not human and you're invaded by a reptilian or something, that which could be. So essentially, we have to, like I said, check that video, watch the rest of it. It's about being in your own present, being silent, being in your right mind, and being able to not want people's, confirmation of who you are, and not talking too much and not giving your energy out. We need to apply that to the system. If you I don't want to tell you never be on the internet, but obviously reduction would probably be best, because the more we rely on it, the more we're going to evolve into this system where they lock us right in. And it's like a hierarchy. There's not going to be room for anyone to go up. We're just going to be put into our categories, put into boxes, and there we have it. That's who we are. And our children will be brainwashed to believe that. Our grandchildren will certainly be brainwashed. You're here, you're in this box, that's what you are. You don't get to go out anymore. You do your job, you go home, and you watch this phone, and you shut up. And you take what you have, which is hardly anything. And it limits is our purpose. Our purpose is to experience this world, and it certainly would limit it. But it is about that, taking your mind and your focus away from everything. And I rushed out here to do this podcast and put it together because a lot of this stuff about the Charlie Kirk and the memorial, and how I felt like they were recycling people back into their system and using their energy to push forward in their agenda. And yeah, you just start feeling everything so strange. And I'm like, okay, so I'm hearing people talking about how we're separated from the earth. And it's why my background is very plant-based. And it feels like if they're not destroying it, they're isolating people from other people. This happened in the pandemic. They want to isolate people from nature. They want people to believe that they're separate from nature and that they somehow have a better bloodline and they're more clever. It's like an apple in the tree telling the other apple that they're more part of the tree. I'm part of the tree and you're not. You're a bad apple. You didn't come from the tree. I'm the special apple from the tree. You know how absurd this is when elites say we're the special ones, we're the God's chosen ones, we're the special. We have the blood of the God in here. It's like, well, we're all from this planet. So what are you talking about? It makes zero sense. It's a lie. And what they don't want you to know is the power that you have to control your mind. And most people never go there and try to control their mind and explore other alternatives. I know many of you may be Christian, many of you may be Wiccan, you may have different beliefs that come to this channel. And I mean, I think that's good that there's people who search out different things. Maybe it's your ancestry. Maybe you understand who you are, where you came from. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are very lost. And they're looking for somewhere to belong. And these massive groups in the GOP, they offer this. And they feel like they're more powerful because they have more people around them. I don't think they are powerful. I think if they were powerful, they would, they probably avoid these massive events. And they see this as being one unto God. And a lot of them want war, and they're pushing war, and they're saying, Trump's a god. And it's totally opposite of what their Bible tells them to do. That's what's so crazy about it. It's complete and utter opposite. And remember, hate doesn't cancel out hate. Only love can do that. Darkness doesn't cancel out darkness. Only light does that. And so it may look like people are saying love and we love Charlie Kirk, and a lot of them are. They're really upset about this. But the system that's there is using this love to manipulate them into what? Into pushing hate and war on another country. I'm surprised they haven't come out with Iran did it yet. I'm surprised they haven't come out with that one. I was fully expecting them to say that. To get us into war, they're using our love and all of that stuff as a means to entrap us. And that's the biggest danger. And Halloween's coming up, guys. We have a really great story. It's a story. We have a story. We have a great show tomorrow on the origins of Halloween. That's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be talking about this. This is the time, if you're going to do something, this is the quiet time to do it, to get in sync with your mind. I'm going to be having a reading break at the beginning of November where I'm not on for a week. And I think I'm going to go hiking tomorrow morning before the show. I'm going to go hiking up to a waterfall because I used to hike all the time on Vancouver Island, and I don't do it as much anymore. These are things that we got to do. But I do hope you join me tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern and keep asking, who is controlling? Why don't I have this connection to the supernatural? It's because we have all these disturbances, all these distractions, all this stuff that is about addiction. And remember when that fellow over at Understanding Conspiracy talked about how this world is constructed. It's constructed the devil's world. It makes us addicted. Ding, 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 ding. Constant bells ringing in our head, in our mind. Constant psyops, constant chaos, mass rushes of information. And somehow we have to shut that out and take control and be silent and get in control of our emotions. Otherwise, they win the game, at least over you. And they've already won the game over many people. Many people don't understand that. So I put those two links in there. I hope you guys check it out. Check out Understanding Conspiracy and check out that other link on. It will pop the video up here. The Default Leader. It's basically you're going to lead your own life and lead your own energy and create your own presence. And it's going to be uncomfortable at first because you, like he said, you're engineered, you're manipulated to obey, to be nice to people, to give, to make sure people like you, to make sure people affirm everything. So it is going to be uncomfortable, but it's a good practice. And you don't have to do it with hate or malice. You just have to do it with the concept that you're conserving your energy and your own beliefs for who you are, so you are not easy to manipulate. You are not one of those people rushing to a concert after someone died, not realizing how suspicious it is that this memorial concert staged, everything just lines up almost like they've planned it for a while. You don't see it because you're too busy being, trailed, dangling the carrot. You just don't see it because you're not in control of your mind and you're not stopping in silence and thinking for a while. and get back in touch with that. I don't know if what you believe. I'm not here to tell you what to believe about how to get in touch with your ancestors or the energy or feel out the paranormal, but I guarantee you it's probably not on the internet. It's probably not on TV. It's probably not with a ghost box. It's probably none of those things. You'll figure that out. I hope maybe we'll have a show one time about divination, because this is the time. It's coming up, guys. This is the time for divination and seeing the future and speaking to the ancestors and the powers that be. All right. We're going to sign off, and I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Velvet Bite Occult Studies series. Please go to melissadonharris.com for all the links. And of course, go to melissadonharris.substack.com and subscribe to that Substack. I have a story on there about a ghostly forerunner, old folklore, old belief systems, old tellings of the supernatural that might help get you in touch with it. It's a really good story. You can hit me up in the messages. It might take me a bit to respond, but I can sort of tell you. I know the people who had that story, and they're passed away now, but there's some great books out there. Read a book. There's some great books out there about old folklore and what people experience that you never hear anymore. You just see ghost adventures and their baloney. All right, guys. You guys take care. I'm going to sign out now, and we will see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern. Be here. I will be here. I've got tons to share with you.